Hello again, here we are. We've received some very interesting questions and comments from people who've been listening. And I'm going to, there are a couple that I need more information for, so I'll not do a couple of the ones that came in, but the others I'll respond to as best I can and enjoy, because this is like a conversation, this part. So, the first question is this: have you ever felt contradiction between your Western cultural and religious background and dharma practice? Do you have advice for others who experience this? Thank you. Well, I thought that it would probably be unlikely that I hadn't experienced some kind of contradiction. But I have not ever experienced a contradiction between my Western culture and the Dharma teachings or the Dharma practice, or my original upbringing, religious upbringing as a Westerner in the Christian tradition. And I'm going to start with the religious background question, the aspect first. I was brought up from childhood in a Christian tradition that had liturgy like the Catholic Church. It's with the Episcopal tradition, Protestant tradition. So there was liturgy and ceremony and so on. And I was very, very oriented from early childhood to the spiritual life. I was looking actually, even at age 7 or 8, I think, I was looking to make contact with some nuns that had a closed convent at the head of the street that we were living in, a hillside. And I remember going up and walking to the door and knocking and saying, "May I come in? I want to visit." And the nun had to say, "No, nobody can come in, little girl. You have to go home." So I went home, but I was still interested. So I think of some of this. I have great enthusiastic, actually, relationship with karma. Not that I enjoy the fruits of my karma all the time, but I have, as Rinpoche says, he has great faith in karma. I have great confidence also in karma. So I think that these early imprints religiously were very much karmic. The early imprints began to surface. I was interested in the monastic life from childhood. Not that I had any understanding of what that was, and I'm so sorry to say, didn't have any interest in being a nun. I wanted to be a monk. So I suspect that the immediately prior, the more recent imprints had to do with being a monk. I think I have other signals that might have been the case, and so that seemed to fit into my acculturation as a child in the religious tradition, but it was a step beyond, a big step beyond what my family would have been interested in, and I didn't discuss it with them. I somehow instinctively knew not to discuss it with the family, but I didn't feel at odds with my culture at all, because Western mysticism was there, but I didn't have access to the mystic tradition. So I just wasn't in a part of the culture that had a mystical Christian traditional doorway that was available to me. I didn't even understand what it meant. I just knew what my longings were and what I was attracted to, and felt a strong inner spiritual interest in, not so much religious, but spiritual, if we can make that perhaps unnecessary distinction. But I had the fortune as a young person at age 14 to go away to a boarding school, and my two sisters went to the boarding school of our family religious tradition, but I went to a Quaker boarding school, a co-ed Quaker boarding school, quite far away from where the family was living. And in Quaker tradition, there are some aspects of Quaker tradition that have religious services with a minister and so on. But the original forms, or at least the original form that I was exposed to, and the the form more common on the East Coast than on the West is called silent meeting for worship. And in that tradition, you enter the building where the worship occurs, and everyone sits down in silence. And the instruction simply is to center down, to find the still, small voice within, to listen to that of the divine. And if feel moved, then to speak, to stand up and speak. And really as moved spiritually, stand up and speak. Not because you have something you want to say, but because you are not able to not stand up. You feel impelled to speak because there is something moving you to do so. And I felt entirely at home in that environment. That felt as if it was just made for me. So then later, and then I left that tradition. I have tended to come and go in formal environments. I come in, I take what I need, and then I go. But when I finally met the Dharma, I felt as if that training as a teenager in this Quaker tradition had been the perfect preparation. I knew how to sit. I knew how to center in. I knew how to listen inwardly. So I mean, it was just, there was hardly any transition, except that the teachings of the Dharma made me so happy. When I finally met the Buddha Dharma, I can't remember how old I was. I was definitely late 30s, probably early 40s by then. But I can remember the first teachings with the Tibetan Lama. I think there might have been 2 lamas. And I remember just sitting there, happy as a clam. I mean, I was just smiling and happy because what I was hearing made sense to me. I was so relieved. I didn't have to struggle to understand it. I didn't have to struggle to deal with a feeling that there was something wrong with me, which some traditions are very, tend to give you that message. And I felt as if it was orderly. It made my mind became orderly when I started listening to the Dharma. So I never felt a conflict at all. In some ways, my early years had sort of trained me for it, but sort of by absence rather than by presence until I got to the Quaker school. But my heartfelt guidance to anyone who does experience that conflict, and I know that there are many who do, and I have many friends who have, and many people come to Dharma with a religious wound of feeling that their birth religion that they were brought up in or exposed to had somehow harmed them, not harmed, in a permanent kind of way, but hurt them. Made them feel not quite valuable or not quite worthy in some way, but it's their karma that brought them to that, tradition, and it's their karma that they held a seed of thought of not being worthy. So, these things ripen where they have conditions to ripen. But I would pass to anybody who's in any kind of quandary about this the advice that Rinpoche gave me. He said, from every teaching you receive and any practice that you're given, take the essence of it. Whatever the form of it may be, take the essence of it and practice and teach on that. And that frees you from a slavish or desperate or unhappy association with a particular formal structure. One can cultivate a huge gratitude for receiving anything of benefit from a religious tradition. You don't have to stay with the forms if they don't suit you, but stay with the essence that speaks to you sincerely and that opens your mind and your heart to be receptive to wisdom and love. And Rinpoche, I'm sure you've heard teach before about how every single religion on the earth is needed by someone. And that without a religious tradition, people are flying blind. They're kind of wandering around a lot, not knowing what to do. And I think we could all agree that there are some religious traditions that we might see as harmful or not beneficial, but for someone they're beneficial, or they wouldn't still exist. Now, even what is considered beneficial, some might question, but if somebody has guidance about what is a way to approach the divine, approach divinity, and with respect and gratitude, or guidance about how to live a life that is aligned with principles and values that are considered in that tradition correct, then one has some training in virtue. So there are all kinds of ways that we can look at this if we're not fixated. And fixation isn't just attachment to one form, it's also negative attachment to other forms. So any religious prejudice or spiritual closed-mindedness is on us. If we have that, that's on us. That's our mind being fixated positively or negatively, in terms of attachment or in terms of aversion. So take the essence from any tradition that you are introduced to, whether in your family tradition or later on, as I was also, and practice on that until you exhaust its potential for you, which you might, and then see what comes next. You don't have to stay in the room that at first you feel comfortable in. At some point, the room might become too confining for you. It might seem very spacious when you first enter, and then as time goes by and you learn more and you develop and grow, perhaps that room is no longer quite as spacious and you need a bigger room, or you need a different room. That's fine. From my point of view, that's fine. Some religious traditions might say, no, this is the room, don't leave. And then you get to decide, but you still get to decide. So take the essence, take the essence, take the essence, and let it feed you, nourish you, deepen you, mature you. And then if something else comes after that or along with that, then you pay attention to that. So that's my advice in response to this. It's a very good question. I mean, the experience of many is of that kind of conflict. So I'm glad to have a chance to respond to it, and I hope that response is helpful for you, the person who's posed the question, and helpful for those clearly whom you had in your mind that might have also such an experience that they would be maybe worried about. Don't worry. Don't worry, just be honest with yourself and make the choices that are correct for you in this moment. They will lead to the choices that are correct for you in the next one. That's what I've learned. So, thank you. And here's a question of a very different kind. This is from a friend who has what's called restless leg syndrome. And her description of it is this. It's also a very interesting, good question. She says her legs move uncontrollably when she's lying down, usually at night when she's asleep. And she can feel that the uncontrollable movement is coming. And then it comes and goes. And then she has to, in order to bring herself back to a place where she can get some rest in the night, she has to wake up and stretch or massage her legs so that the sensation goes away, and then comes again later on. And then sometimes she's aware of it coming out of a negative or afflictive thought if she's awake, but other times seems to come out of nowhere. And her question is, how can I practice clear awareness on this situation? Most of the time I'm able to recognize the sensation. I know when it's coming because I can feel the stream of energy right in my legs. Should I only notice the sensation and not wake up to stretch or massage my legs? By doing that, am I putting too much attention to the problem? What is best to do? If I don't wake up and stand up, my legs could continue jumping me around all night, or the sensation might go away. Other times, if they continue moving, sometimes I can sleep but also be aware at the same time. And she's been working on on being worried because she's been told that might contribute to that condition, and on compassion for herself and letting go of stressful situations. I'm very struck by this. The way that you're describing this, I hope you're there. I hope that I'm talking directly to you. The way you describe the oncoming sensations that then really grab your attention because they're grabbing your body, and that you need to then react to by getting up and massaging and so on. The way you're describing that is a very interesting description that's just like describing how a thought form arises. That you notice it coming on, then you notice it's gripping you, then you notice you have to do something with it, and then sometimes it goes away on its own, sometimes it comes back again. It's just like being aware of the oncoming thought, and then it arises and grips you, and then it subsides or not, or comes back or whatever. And you don't have to choose between taking care of your body and being in right relationship with your mind. You don't have to make that choice. You can do both. You can get up and massage your legs so that you can get back to sleep again, and you can do that while practicing clear awareness. You can be practicing clear awareness as you're recognizing the building up sensation of this difficult condition and that it's about to throw you out of bed. You can see that and see clear awareness seeing it. So when you're looking at your condition agitating you, what sees that? Well, the mind that's considering what it's going to do next is conventional mind that's trying to respond to a problem, but there's also something seeing that. And asking that question brings you to that larger view of clear awareness that is seeing the event, seeing the person in the event, seeing the thoughts about the event. In other words, the whole thing is unfolding in the field of clear awareness, and you don't have to separate yourself from any aspect of it. You don't have to choose between clear awareness and an event. What we do is we bring clear awareness to whatever the event is. So your practice on the cushion when the legs are still and not bothering you will remind you what to do when the legs start to bother you and you start thinking, well, where's my clear awareness practice? My mind is completely caught up with my crazy legs. And then you see what sees that. That's clear awareness. You're never apart from clear awareness, even when your legs are jumping all around. What sees that is clear awareness. So for an instant, when you recognize that, you just relax right into it. So the mind is relaxed even while the crazy legs are jumping around. Now that's interesting to think about the possibility of. And I'm wanting a report on how well this practice unfolds for you of not creating duality mind. Thoughts that are arising from dualistic mind, not bothering with that layer of habitual reaction, but just holding steady in clear awareness as you deal with the jumping legs. And then for a minute you won't hold steady. You'll lose your concentration, you'll lose your clarity, you'll be caught in the annoyance of having to wake up in the middle of the night. It's hard on people. I know that, but from people who've talked to me about this condition. It's hard on you. You lose sleep. But if you're going to lose sleep anyway, be awake in the other meaning of the word. Yeah? Good? Flowers right back to you. And you'll send me an email to let me know what happens with this practice, okay? Thank you. These questions are marvelous. It's like sitting in the room together. It's so great. Here's a very important question, too. Today I've had a frightening experience, an accident in which I was deeply afraid of my body getting harmed. I saw my deep attachment to my body and the fear of losing part of it. I remembered that since childhood I've been used to the fear of my body and mind being hurt, since I did have an actual threat that I was exposed to. I understand that this attachment and habitual tendency draws me back into samsara and does not support the liberation from my physical form. How can I truly liberate these feelings of attachment and fear of my body getting harmed through our practice of clear awareness and really be stable in a shocking moment or at the moment of death? Well, the phrase that stuck out for me, or really struck me, was liberation from my physical form. Don't be in a hurry for that. That's the moment of death, when we liberate from the physical form. We're in our physical form in order to be here. We can't be here without the body. So I don't counsel people to liberate themselves from the physical form. When I'm with somebody who's dying, I say, this is the time that you're going to die, and your body is going to drop away, and help the person if there's any kind of fear or whatever about that. But that's the only moment that I would encourage liberation from the physical form. What we want is that the mind is liberated from attachment, aversion, and ignorance, and pride, jealousy. The body, in my way of understanding and experience with practice and study, the body is not the enemy. Although I've heard people say that the body is the enemy, I've heard my teachers say the body is the enemy, but it's really attachment to the body that's the enemy. And this is what you're experiencing here, the attachment to the physical form. But the attachment isn't in the body, it's in the mind. So you don't have to get rid of the physical form in order to get rid of the attachment. You might have to get rid of the attachment in order to live happily with the physical form. But when we think about the moment of death, yes, you will be actually separating from the physical body, but until then, as long as we're in a body, we have some attachment to the physical form. There's always going to be some degree of self-grasping as long as we're in a body, because it's a point, not because it's so great or awful, but it's a point of reference to which we continue to return. And even after the time of death, when the body and mind separate, in some of the Bardo experiences, one is still experiencing as if one has that physical body. That's how strong the attachment is. But that attachment is just a thought. It's really just a thought, attachment is. I want, I need, I can't survive without it. What is it we want to have continue? The physical form itself is always changing, and it's always heading towards death. From the instant you incarnate, you're a capsule, a time capsule that's heading towards its demise. So the physical body that you're wearing at this time is your vehicle through which you can be of benefit to beings. If you think of it that way, you already don't own the physical form. It belongs to others. Through it, you are able to be of benefit. That's its main importance. And you could do that without body parts. Certain body parts aren't necessary to that. A mind is necessary to that. In my book, I write about one of my former students who had a degenerative disease, but she'd been practicing for a while, and she knew that even though her body was becoming unusable, really unusable, couldn't support her, couldn't keep her for much longer too, her mind didn't get confused about what was important. It wasn't that she didn't care about her body, and it wasn't that she didn't miss the body parts that no longer were functioning for her. It's that she knew that the mind could still practice loving kindness, the mind could still practice generosity, the mind could still practice gratitude, the mind could still rest in awareness. She was still free to practice, even though the body rest in awareness. She was still free to practice, even though the body was becoming more like a prison for her in some ways. Since you're asking for counsel, what I would counsel is practice loving kindness and gratitude in relation to this body, and acknowledge consciously and to your body, speaking to your body, that you know that this is a temporary arrangement. And you very much, the body elements coming together as an aggregate to support your existence in this lifetime. And say that at the time of actually leaving the body, you will continue to practice gratitude, and you will leave the body, and the body will be free to return to its elements. And you're abandoning attachment. You're not abandoning your relationship with your body. You need to take care of your body in order to be here. And in order to be of benefit to others, you need to take care of this body. But if you lose that particular body part that you were worried about, there are many people who've gone on without that. And I've lost quite a number of body parts. Sort of the streets might be littered with them as my passage through life. I've left a few body parts behind. And here I am. It inconveniences one to lose body parts. It's not necessarily helpful to one's health to lose body parts, but what you really are, what you really need to pay attention to is the condition of the mind. And it's not abstract when we're talking about what you're talking about, an accident that brought up these fears and so on. It stops being abstract at the moment that you're hurt. It's no longer abstract. But it's not abstract. It's wonderful that it's not abstract, because it confronts you with the moment in which you can say, I really know that I am not this body part. What sees that? What sees that body part? What sees me knowing that I'm not the body part? What sees me being grateful to the body part for all that it has given me in this lifetime? What sees me mourning the loss of the body part because I'm very fond of it? It's been so meaningful to have this body part. See how even this language changes the picture? You're really, you're in a relationship with the body and this particular part that you were concerned about in that accident as co-creators of a life together. And you relied on each other, and you still can, but everything is always changing. And be very happy that this body part has been a part of your experience, because it's been very significant. And be happy that you can be thankful and let it go if it has to go. And if you get to keep it, so much the better. But it's your mind that you need to look at. Mind of attachment. Attachment to the body part and its experiences, and aversion to the thought of losing it. And confusion at the thought of losing it. Some panic also, because, oh, how am I going to get along? You'll get along. Many people will help you. So, if you were sitting right here with me, I would reach out and I would take your right hand in mine, and I would stroke your arm a little bit, and I would reassure you that life without certain body parts, countless beings have gone on like that, brave and generous and undefended. True bodhisattvas. So your fear is coming from your thoughts about something, not from being without it. The fear is coming from attachment. I hope this is helpful a little bit. You can always get back in touch if you need more. Or if it wasn't helpful, you can tell me so. Okay? Thank you. And the next questioner has 3 questions. And I'm only going to respond to one of them, I think, at this moment, because I want to be sure everybody gets a chance to speak up here. The part I'm choosing to respond to says this: I really like the notion of willingness to choose clear awareness when we recognize we are in the midst of conceptual thinking. It seems to me that habitual patterns and karmic imprints make it unlikely for me to recognize clear awareness while in the state of mentation. That's not meditation, it's mentation, state of thinking. Is it true that we have the choice only when we recognize that we're thinking, i.e. the wedge has created a small opening? Now, I'm not entirely sure I understand the question, but the only thing that, what strikes me here is that the only real question here is whether or not we're recognizing clear awareness. That's the only real question for us. And that's why we practice, to learn how to recognize clear awareness. It's always here. I may not be reading the question thoroughly enough. In the midst of conceptual thinking, if the thought occurs to you that clear awareness even exists, you're already no longer in quite the same realm of conceptual thinking that you were in before. You're already asking yourself, in a sense, what sees this? I think you say it's unlikely because of habits and karma to recognize clear awareness while you're actually thinking conceptual thoughts, the state of mentation. Let's start from a different ground, and this means your practice needs to help you shift to a different ground. Let the steady state be clear awareness, and the conceptual process be something that arises within the clear awareness state. You need to shift where the priority is, and only practice will help you do that. Habituating clear awareness, maybe not the full direct experience of it, but at least paying attention to it, asking, is clear awareness here? What is seeing what I'm thinking? Oh, that's clear awareness, they say. Okay, so clear awareness is here. Rather than conceptual thinking is here, where is clear awareness? Think, clear awareness is here, and here comes conceptual thinking. I think that's as far as I can go here with this question. Because there are 3 questions even in that paragraph. So the question is whether we recognize clear awareness. In order to recognize it, we have to, well, I don't know if that's true what I was about to say. Sometimes the recognition of the natural state of mind, the true nature, comes upon one completely unexpected and unbidden. It's not always a chosen state that one is seeking or even trying to make a space for. Sometimes it's just there it is, and you're kind of stunned or relieved or liberated. But that's a moment in which you are recognizing awareness. Awareness was there before. Awareness has always already been there. And so the only question is, are we recognizing it? And what conditions are conducive to our recognizing clear awareness? The first is wanting to, if we're going to choose a course of action, it would be wanting to be aware of awareness. But when we're really habituated to a lot of conceptuality, we're usually wanting to hold on to that and also make some spiritual progress. I'm being a little flip here. So at certain points I could imagine you, I can see you very clearly doing this. At certain points I could imagine you sitting down and having a conversation with yourself. Which do I want more? Clear awareness or conceptuality? And I would suggest that you start there. Start with a conversation like that with yourself, a really honest one, sitting on your cushion in your room and really asking that question. And then maybe asking it also while you're in a class, teaching, or maybe you're not back in a classroom yet, but or taking a walk, or not when you're driving, not when you're driving, and having a conversation with yourself over some time. Here's what seemed to me like two choices: clear awareness or conceptuality. Mind you, I'm saying they don't have to be separate. They don't have to be separate. It's true, Rinpoche has pointed out, non-conceptuality opens us to the Dharmakaya, the direct experience of the ultimate wisdom. Unless we're at that point, and that's about to occur or is occurring, or we have that incredible good fortune, we're still in the world of conceptuality to some degree. There can be moments when conceptuality lifts away, or that we're able to penetrate it with direct insight. What's always already there in all of those eventualities that I just mentioned? Clear awareness. So sit down and have a conversation with yourself. Do I want to choose between them? In which case, which one am I choosing? Do I have to choose between them? Is it even possible to choose between them? Just play with it for a while. And then I would like to hear what happens. Okay? Thank you. And the other questions will come to another time. And here's a question that comes up very often when introducing awareness meditation practice of one sort or another that has, as a part of the practice, eyes open. And sometimes people will try it both ways, eyes open and eyes closed, and notice a difference, and are able to communicate about what that difference is. Sometimes the habituation to eyes closed in meditation is so strong that there is what this writer describes, a deeply felt yearning and related physical response to close my eyes. So this is someone who has had a lot of training, a lot of experience meditating, and all with eyes closed. All these practices that this person has been trained in or experienced have been with the eyes closed. So the natural inclination being described here is this deeply felt yearning and related physical response to close my eyes. And then describing how with the eyes open, and I've heard this description from many people, that one is distracted by the content of what you're looking at. When you have the eyes open, you're looking at something typically, but eyes open for meditation isn't looking at something, it's simply gazing. It's simply you have your eyes open, but the inward attention is where the energy is. What you're looking within, you're gazing without. You're looking within at how the mind is functioning, what you're seeing in the mind, or at the mind's condition or the mind's nature. You're not looking at this tripod with a camera on it in front of you. It's there in your field of vision, but it's not your focal point. So maybe that helps a little bit to withdraw some of the grasping at the external objects in your vision, in your field of vision. There's the same way we grasp at our thoughts in our mind, we grasp at visual objects in our field of vision. So when the eyes are open and you're grasping at the physical objects that are in front of your face, you think it's because you're looking at them, but you can have them in your physical field without grasping at them. We do that all the time. We see something that's in the forefront and then something that's in the background. We're not grasping at the background. If we are, it comes into a clearer focus. When we're looking at something in the foreground, the background is more hazy. It's not compelling our vision to look at it. So the same thing with, I'm not sure it's exactly the same thing, but when cultivating the inward attention, the focus is on what you're seeing in your mind. We're looking at the mind. And we're looking at clear awareness, we're looking at the conditioned mind, we're looking at what's happening with the two. And there's something in my field of vision as I'm sitting right here. My attention is inward as I'm talking right now. My attention is inward, but my eyes are wide open. I mean, I can see what's in front of me, but I'm not looking at it. That's the distinction I would suggest you practice with. You see it because it's in your field of vision and you're not blind visually, and yet you're not looking at it. You're not even gazing at it. You're not interacting with it in any way. It's just there. So try that as you draw the attention within to practice the inward attention, and you're looking at the condition of your mind. It's not that you don't see what's in front of you. It's that you're not grasping at it. You're not looking at it. You're not creating a relationship with it. It's simply there. Try that and see what happens. Because the description of the experience is very much of a habituation to a kind of grasping relationship with the objects in front of one's face, with the objects that are in view, reaching out to interact with them with the vision, with the gaze, or with the stare, if it's a fixed stare. And that's the issue. Not whether the eyes are actually open or closed, because with the eyes open or closed, there is still the potential for the mind grasping at something. So with the eyes closed, sometimes I like to say, with the eyes closed, it's very easy to go off into la-la land or to let oneself drift away. There are also times in meditation when the eyes closed is really almost necessary and very beneficial, but this kind of practice isn't one of those cases, at least at this stage of our practice. But there are some meditations where indeed having the eyes closed, for example, learning how to visualize deity forms with great detail, sometimes is recommended. You look closely at the deity form and then you close the eyes and it appears before you in your inner vision, and you are able to recapitulate it. This is one of the ways that we learn all the elements of a deity visualization. But that's not what you're talking about. What you're talking about is a habit of attachment to and grasping at what's in the field of vision as objects of the vision. And that's fine if you're needing to hit a tennis ball or something. Yes, you better be looking to see what's in your field of vision, or you might get hit by the ball. But when we're practicing clear awareness or any form of awareness practice, the gaze, the glance and the gaze within are where the focus is. And we're less distracted by our mind just going wherever it wants to go with the eyes open than with them closed. In other words, for this kind of practice, we see better with the eyes partly open. That doesn't mean open and staring. They can be, semi-closed, looking down the nose, for example, maybe 8 feet in front or so. But you'll find that if, in fact, you have a focus on the condition of the mind, not analytically and not conceptually, but just simply to recognize it, the recognizing capacity with the eyes open, with the inward attention, is very clear, very clean. I hope that's helpful. I think that the problem you're describing of getting involved visually is very common. I mean, we do that. We all do that. We're trained to do that. But now we get to train not to do that. No grasping, no fixation to anything, including whatever is right in front of your eyes. Thank you. Well, now here's a question that also often we talk about in Dharma. How does one be a bodhisattva without being a pushover? Discernment, my friend. Discernment about motivation. Being a pushover is what I call, in Brave, Generous, Undefended, being a compulsive caretaker. And the compulsive nature of being a pushover, of if somebody wants something, you just fall all over and let them have whatever they want, or actually even go out looking for opportunities to be a pushover and to be taken advantage of, thinking that that's service, that is giving people what they want and need. But that's really called wimp compassion, or some people go a little further and they call it idiot compassion, not meaning to insult anybody, but the discernment about motivation is what's important here. If you're a pushover, you're awfully concerned about how others see you and what they think of you and what you think of yourself, whether you think of yourself as sufficiently generous and kind and so on, but in a way that has to do with your self-regard rather than your bodhisattva commitments. So you need to discern what your motivation is moment to moment. This is where verse 36 is very applicable. Always consider the condition of your own mind. If you're looking for approval or you're looking to please others, you will be a pushover. But that's not bodhisattva activity. Sometimes a bodhisattva has to act in ways that are extremely displeasing to others. It's not always easy to do. Sometimes it is, but not always. But being a pushover doesn't help anyone. It trains others to take advantage of you, and it trains you to not pay attention to what's really going on in your motivations. If you really are seeking approval and want others to think well of you, or you think you need to think well of yourself, ask yourself why. What's going on there that you need outside approval? What's going on there that you always are asking yourself, am I nice enough? Nice isn't a quality that necessarily comes in bodhisattva activity. It's not about being nice. It's about relieving beings from suffering, liberating beings from ignorance. And liberating beings from suffering is sometimes a hard action or hard word, not necessarily always a kind. I mean, it's kind in the ultimate, but in the relative, may not look or feel kind. It might look kind of cutting. I have a friend whose students come to her sometimes and ask for help, and she says, and I say, well, what do you do? She says, I take away the handholds. She lives in mountain country, so a lot of people climb mountains. So she said, I just take the handholds away. So either they figure out how to keep climbing or they fall off the mountain. Take away the handholds. That which gives the illusion of safety, but it's a lie. The handholds are always a lie of one sort or another. So it isn't nicey nice, the bodhisattva vocation. It's not nicey nice. It doesn't look pretty necessarily. It can be really harsh, really hard. not harsh in the sense of hurtful to the other person, but harsh in the sense of cutting right through delusion, right through the fictions that we tell ourselves. So if you're a pushover, you would need to examine your mind very carefully. Have great compassion for yourself, but don't stroke yourself into thinking you're fine. Have compassion for the one who doesn't think he's okay or she's okay, and say, oh, I actually am a Buddha. I just haven't totally blossomed yet. And I'm on the Bodhisattva path. I'm committed to relieving beings of suffering. I need to be really brave and strong and not just try to make people feel better, but actually see what's wrong and see if I can help them correct that. Okay? I have one question, this questioner says. It says, mind looks at mind, thoughts cease. That's quoting Machiklapran. However, in daily work, we need to have meetings to discuss, debate, and reach agreement, which needs quite some thinking. To some extent, we need to generate thoughts. How to apply the teachings in those situations? That's fun, that question. So my immediate response when I first read this was, actual thinking is extremely rare. It's very unusual. It occupies a very small portion of one's day. And also in a meeting where you know people need to generate thoughts, actual thinking is rare even in those contexts. Usually when we're sitting on the cushion, you know, or we're doing something that we can call meditating, we're not thinking. Thoughts are just sort of coming and going, but we're not really thinking. Some of the time we're really thinking, and then we catch ourselves and realize we've been thinking about something, but more we've been floating around, or we've been obsessing about something. The kind of thinking you're talking about is creative and co-creative thinking with others to solve problems. And that's a conscious activity which you work with by dedicating it to the liberation of all, to the benefit of all. Anytime you step into one of those meetings when you're going to be exercising a high level of conceptuality, dedicate it. In any virtuous activity, dedicate it to the liberation of all beings. Other kinds of things that we call thinking tend to be compulsive or just habituated patterns of, you know, the squirrel running around in the cage. You know, the mind is just whirling around, doing what the mind does, which is generate thoughts. But that's not necessarily the same thing as actual thinking. Let's reserve the word thinking for an activity that's intentionally creative and dedicate that activity to the benefit of all. That's a short answer, but I think it's the way maybe to apply the teachings in that situation, which is what your actual question is. Now, here's a question kind of from the other end of the spectrum. I find lift, joy, and inspiration in our teacher's words each day. I am aware that engaging in the teachings draws my mind from pure, still awareness to movement. Could you speak to this? Well, are you attached to the state of pure, still awareness? Are you clinging to that state? So that even the teachings of the Dharma seem like a distraction? I can see how they can be. I've experienced how they can be, that I'm ambivalent perhaps about really allowing deep contemplation to occur or deep meditation to occur. Sometimes I resist that. And so I'll turn and grasp to teachings. I'll pick up a book, for example. So the teachings can be used as an escape from the pure still awareness that you're speaking of. But the pure still awareness can also be something that one is attached to. And here I'll take a moment then to speak about the relationship with the world for the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva path is in no way a withdrawal from the world. It's in fact in every moment coming closer to the world. Not to be involved in it for just the busyness, but to understand the condition of beings and to work with them in ways that liberate. You have to be in the world to help it heal as a sentient being. For some people, there is a calling to be in the cave. I'll use that as a metaphor for remaining in the pure still awareness. For some people, that calling is the contemplative life, the isolated, secluded life, completely away from the world. It's a rare person for whom that is the authentic calling. That's very rare, as we know. For many, there is a thought that, if I can just, stay in this nice meditative state, I don't have to go back out there where it hurts so much, or where it's so confusing and confounding, or where people are suffering so. No, you don't have to go back out there. But if you don't, who will? If there's something you have to offer and you don't offer it, is it needed? Is there something missing if you don't? But maybe the gift that you have is actually for the pure still awareness. But how did you get there? Did the teachings not help you? Were the teachings not a part of the path that led you to the pure still awareness practice? And when you have questions, are they not still useful to you? I don't think you have to choose between meditative states of pure still awareness and paying attention to the teachings. I think as time goes by, my experience is that I'm more selective about what teachings I seek out, and I'm more selective about which ones I attend. Because some I have received benefit and I don't feel a need to go back to that particular teaching stream again. But if I do feel a need for it, I will go. But I don't feel a need to choose between awareness practice and teachings. I do allow my practice to tell me what to read. And that's been true for me for many, many years, that my practice is what guides my reading. And my attention to teachings. But I also know what teachers I want to receive teachings from most of the time. So I think as time goes by on the path and in one's studies and one's practice, you become more discerning, you become more aware of what you need at a given moment, and you know where to find it. So don't think in terms choose between. Think in terms of both and to be discerning and wise and responsible about what you do when. But if there's attachment to getting teachings, then you're practicing attachment, even though it's dharma. If there's attachment to the pure still awareness state, then you're practicing attachment, even though it looks like meditation. Now that sounds very harsh a little bit, maybe not too harsh, maybe a little bit harsh, but this is verse 36 again. Pull it into application in your condition. When you assess your mind's condition, am I attached to the meditation and resistant to the teachings because they take me away from this nice meditation? Or am I resistant to the teachings because they're showing me something I don't want to look at? I mean, just do an inventory of your mind state, as verse 36 counsels us to do. It's very interesting to do that. And don't be attached to outcome either. There's no criticism in what I'm saying. I have no idea whether you have attachment here or not, but it sounds as if you think you need to choose between teachings and what they teach. Maybe. But I would question myself if I saw that as my conundrum. Okay. We're at the end of our time. There are a couple more questions here that I'd like to address, but maybe there'll be, two of them I know the person and I can address them directly. But I want to say to the person who asked me for a copy of my walking instructions, I'm not sure what's being referred to there. You have the email here at the Garchin Institute. You can send me an email explaining what it is that you're asking me to send you. A copy of my walking instructions. I don't know what you're referring to. And once you explain, I'll be happy to do that if I can. Okay? So send me an email. Thank you. So we need to stop for now with this part of our work. I love receiving questions and requests for explanations. The ones I didn't respond to today, I think in all three cases, I will respond personally, either with a request for more information or something in relation to your questions. So thank you very much, everybody, for sending good questions. Never hesitate to send good questions. Even if you don't get a response right away, you'll get something at some point. So don't feel like you have to stop now. You can continue to send questions. I just need to make a note here. I feel as if I went very quickly through those questions, and I hope nobody feels that I wasn't giving sufficient attention. I read them carefully during the break, so I felt really happy reading them. And my friends who were there at lunch can vouch for that, because I was smiling and kind of laughing with pleasure as I was reading the questions. They were very good. It would be lovely to sit and respond for hours, but we don't have that time. So, okay, we're going to take. Am I on the right schedule here? 2 to 3 for this? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to take a break now, short break, not very long, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do Kuntuzangpo and clear awareness practice. So take a nice deep breath of the beautiful air outside, but don't be blown away because it's pretty windy. Okay. So I've mentioned a few times yesterday and today the Prayer of Kuntuzangpo. It's a teaching about the one ground and the two paths. The one ground being what we're today calling clear awareness, which could also be called ultimate wisdom or primordial purity. So many beautiful names to evoke that which can only be pointed to, but when experienced directly, is all there is. And the two paths are awareness and unawareness. As the prayer says, if you are a sentient being wandering in confusion, that's the state of unawareness. And I mentioned yesterday, I think, that the term in Tibetan, it was explained to me that the term for a prayer is actually a word munlam that is more accurately translated as mind path. So rather than beseeching and supplicating and asking for something from a supposed divine being able to grant our wishes or give protection, in this case, the prayer is an enunciation of the an articulation of the nature of the ground and the nature of going astray and how to come back again to awareness of the ground. And we can exercise our growing relationship, a conscious relationship of recognition, of clear awareness, as we recite this prayer together. It could be called the Declaration of Kuntuzangpo, but it's framed as Kuntuzangpo, the primordial Buddha, articulating aspirations for all sentient beings who are wandering in ignorance and confusion and the afflictive mind states that we know as samsaric existence. The Prayer of Kuntuzangpo is in effect the field manual for those practicing clear awareness or other awareness practices. It's the how-to of recognizing that one is in a state of affliction or confusion, and what to do and how to do it at that point to restore one to the ground of being, the ground of awareness. So it's timely for us, before we end this retreat this afternoon in an hour, it's timely for us to recite this prayer together with the contemplative mind awake to what we're reciting, and the clear awareness, of course, present with us in the recitation, because we are singing its praises, for sure. And we can have some discussion, but I think the recitation really speaks for itself very clearly. It's really looking at the afflictive emotions one by one, and describing what the dynamics of that emotional experience are for the mind, and prescribing exactly what to do to restore awareness of the ground. In every case, it's the same instruction, but tailored to the particular character of each of the afflictive emotions. It is a remarkable document. It is, well, of course, we always say that. If we give a practice and we give a teaching, everyone, we're all going to say at some point, this is really the only teaching you need. It took me a long time to understand what it meant that every Lama I sat with and said that. This is, you give an empowerment or give a practice, give a teaching, and then you'd say, this is really the only teaching you'll ever need. This is the whole thing. You don't need anything else than this. But I don't think anybody ever added a very important last line to that instruction, which was, it's the only teaching you need if you practice it all the way to accomplishment. Then you don't need anything else. And that's true of all of those teachings. So I will say, this is definitely, without equivocation, the only teaching you will ever need if you practice it all the way to accomplishment. Trust me on this. Why is nobody laughing except me? Oh, you're laughing, that's good. It's so funny to, how many years it takes to understand what somebody actually means by what they say. These instructions are so profound, it does take sometimes 10 years to understand what's being said. 10 years is nothing. So, I just, when I pick this practice up, I just want to exhale. It's as if I've been holding my breath between the last time I was able to recite this and this time when I'm going to recite it again. I propose that we begin with the recitation, and then I'll perhaps give some explication if it seems needed. Are you ready? Yes? And for those who are hearing it for the first time, just let the words soak in. The Quakers have an expression that is very wonderful. When you hear something that really resonates and is deeply meaningful to you, you might say, oh, Thee is speaking to my condition. Thee is speaking to my condition. That's for people who use the old form of language in the Quaker tradition, thee and thy, or you are speaking to my condition. This munlam, this prayer path, this mind path, the prayer of Kuntuzangpo is speaking to our condition. I implore you to take this in deeply. If you do not have a copy in front of you, get a copy. Somebody will let you know how, somebody you know, or you can contact us at the Garchan Institute. We can let you know how to obtain a copy, or we might even be able to provide it for you. Oh, wait a minute, it's ready for download. It's on the website for this event. You can download this text. And for those who have the prayer books, it's in the blue prayer book of the Garchan Institute. Take this. This is your instruction manual. We probably need to have a copy of it in this size at some point. Would be good. I don't think we have a copy in this size, do we? Different translation. Well, we're mostly using the translation of Bakatulku Rinpoche, so we can, at some point, maybe it'll be produced. But these are very handy to carry around. I'm also thinking for some of the items that we find just impossibly significant and profound, we probably ought to have them emblazoned in a small disc on the, on the forehead, so that every time we look in the mirror, we see this beautiful text unfolding. Okay, we're about to start reciting the Prayer of Kuntuzangpo. I rejoice that we can be here together. I rejoice that we have this teaching. I rejoice that we have it in a form that we can understand, in a language that we can understand. I rejoice that we're all here together, some of us mind to mind, some of us through the camera aperture, some of us sitting in a room together, surrounded by the beauty of the Garchen Institute and its intention, and enlivened and supported by the energies and love and compassion of the Buddhas who have walked this land before. And perhaps not just Buddhas in the Tibetan tradition, the Buddhist tradition, but also in the native traditions that practiced on this land before us. So in that spirit of grateful rejoicing, the prayer of Kuntuzangpo, the primordial Buddha, Samantabhadra, and those who are in the room with me, please recite out loud with me, if you wish to. Ho! Everything, appearance and existence, samsara and nirvana, has a single ground, yet two paths and two fruitions, and magically displays as awareness or unawareness. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all beings become Buddhas, completely perfected in the abode of the Dharmadhatu. The ground of all is uncompounded, and the self-arising great expanse beyond expression has neither the name samsara nor nirvana. Realizing just this, you are a Buddha. Not realizing this, you are a being wandering in samsara. I pray that all you beings of the three realms may realize the true meaning of the inexpressible ground. I, Kuntuzangpo, have realized the truth of this ground, free from cause and condition, which is just this self-arising awareness. It is unstained by outer expression and inner thought, affirmation or denial, and is not defiled by the darkness of unmindfulness. Thus, this self-manifesting display is free from defects. I, Kuntuzangpo, abide as intrinsic awareness. Even though the three realms were to be destroyed, there is no fear. There is no attachment to the five desirable qualities of sense objects. In self-arising consciousness, free of thoughts, there is neither solid form nor the five poisons. In the unceasing clarity of awareness, singular in essence, there yet arises the display of the five wisdoms. From the ripening of these five wisdoms, the five original Buddha families emerge, and through the expanse of their wisdom, the 42 peaceful Buddhas appear. Through the arising power of the five wisdoms, the 60 wrathful Herukas manifest. Thus the ground awareness is never mistaken or wrong. I, Kuntuzangpo, am the original Buddha of all, and through this prayer of mine, may all you beings who wander in the three realms of samsara realize this self-arising awareness, and may your great wisdom spontaneously increase. My emanations will continuously manifest in billions of unimaginable ways, appearing in forms to help you beings who can be trained. Through my compassionate prayer, may all of you beings who wander in the three realms of samsara escape from the 6 life forms. From the beginning, you beings are deluded because you do not recognize the awareness of the ground. Being thus unmindful of what occurs is delusion. the very state of unawareness and the cause of going astray. From this delusive state comes a sudden fainting away, and then a subtle consciousness of wavering fear. From that wavering, there arises a separation of self and the perception of others as enemies. Gradually, the tendency of separation strengthens, and from this, the circle of samsara begins. Then the emotions of the 5 poisons develop. The actions of these emotions are endless. You beings lack awareness because you are unmindful, and this is the basis of your going astray. Through my prayer, may all you beings recognize your intrinsic awareness. Innate unawareness means unmindfulness and distraction. Imputing unawareness means dualistic thoughts towards self and others. Both kinds of unawareness are the basis for the delusion of all beings. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all you beings wandering in samsara clear away the dark fog of unmindfulness, clear away the clinging thoughts of duality. May you recognize your own intrinsic awareness. Dualistic thoughts create doubt. From subtle attachment to this dualistic turn of mind, dualistic tendencies become stronger and thicker. Food, wealth, clothes, home, and friends, the 5 objects of the senses and your beloved family, all these things cause torment by creating longing and desire. These are all worldly delusions. The activities of grasping and clinging are endless. When the fruition of attachment ripens, you are born as a hungry ghost, tormented by coveting and desiring, miserable, starving, and thirsty. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all you desirous and lustful beings who have attachments neither reject longing desires nor accept attachment to desires. Let your consciousness relax in its own natural state. Then your awareness will be able to hold its own. May you achieve the wisdom of perfect discernment. When external objects appear, the subtle consciousness of fear will arise. From this fear, the habit of anger becomes stronger and stronger. Finally, hostility comes, causing violence and murder. When the fruition of this anger ripens, you will suffer in hell by boiling and burning. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, you beings of the 6 realms, when strong anger arises for you, neither reject nor accept it. Instead, relax in the natural state and achieve the wisdom of clarity. When your mind becomes full of pride, there will arise thoughts of competition and humiliation. As this pride becomes stronger and stronger, you will experience the suffering of quarrels and abuse. When the fruition of this karma ripens, you will be born in the God realms and experience the suffering of change and falling to lower rebirths. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may you beings who develop pride, let your consciousness relax in the natural state. Then your awareness will be able to hold its own. May you achieve the wisdom of equanimity. By increasing the habit of duality, by praising yourself and denigrating others, your competitive mind will lead you to jealousy and fighting, and you will be born in the jealous God realm where there is much killing and injury. From the result of that killing, you will fall into the hell realm. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, when jealousy and competitive thoughts arise, do not grasp them as enemies. Just relax in ease. Then consciousness can hold its own natural state. May you achieve the wisdom of unobstructed action. By being distracted, careless, and unmindful, you beings will become dull, foggy, and forgetful. By being unconscious and lazy, you will increase your ignorance, and the fruition of this ignorance will be to wander helplessly in the animal realm. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may you beings who have fallen into the dark pit of ignorance shine the light of mindfulness and thereby achieve wisdom free from thought. All you beings of the 3 realms are actually identical to Buddha, the ground of all, but your misunderstanding of the ground causes you to go astray, so you act without aim. The 6 karmic actions are a delusion like a dream. I am the primordial Buddha here to train the 6 kinds of beings through all my manifestations. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all you beings without exception attain enlightenment in the state of Dharma Dhatu. Aho! Hereafter, whenever a very powerful yogin, with his or her awareness radiant and free from delusion, recites this very powerful prayer, then all who hear it will achieve enlightenment within 3 lifetimes. During a solar or lunar eclipse, during an earthquake, or when the earth rumbles, at the solstices or the new year, you should visualize Kuntuzangpo, and if you pray loudly so all can hear, then beings of the 3 realms will be gradually liberated from suffering through the prayer of the yogin and will finally achieve enlightenment. These are the teachings of Guru Pema. And in the description of the ground, you recognize what we describe as clear awareness, yes? It's uncompounded. It's the ultimate nature of our mind. It's self-arising. It's called the great expanse. It cannot be expressed or described. It's not samsara or nirvana. And those who realize this directly have achieved their Buddha nature, have accomplished their Buddha nature, and not realizing it's like us wandering in samsara. The ground, the truth of this ground, clear awareness ground, or the ultimate wisdom ground, is free from cause and condition. It is self-arising awareness, self-arising wisdom nature. Unstained, undefiled, self-manifesting, free from defects. In it, no attachment arises, no poisons arise. It is unceasing clarity, and yet it displays, there are interesting expressions sometimes that are used to describe the display of the natural ground, of the primordial ground, or of emptiness. Some speak of inherent liveliness. Sometimes Longchenpa has been translated as speaking of the dynamic energy of emptiness or awareness. The display is of the 5 wisdoms, as this prayer, Bunlam recounts. And the 8th verse on the first page of the prayer is something I cannot give explanation for because it's not something I've understood well enough. I haven't studied it deeply enough to understand it well enough to explain. But the rest is more needing description, is just descriptive really of what we are studying already. It doesn't need a lot of explanation, but I want to point to a few things. So on page 2, there's the 4th paragraph down, says, "From the beginning you beings are deluded because you did not recognize the awareness of the ground. Being thus unmindful of what occurs is delusion, the very state of unawareness and the cause of going astray." We've touched on that already as we've talked about what clear awareness is. And then we talked this morning about the arising of the dualistic consciousness. And so from the state of unawareness, which is a state of delusion, a subtle consciousness of wavering fear arises, and from it, a separation of self and the perception of others as enemies. We spoke about that this morning. And then the explanation goes on. Innate unawareness means unmindfulness and distraction. That's the state that we refer to as stupidity or ignorance. And imputing unawareness, we spoke of this morning, dualistic thoughts towards self and others. And both of these kinds of unawareness, which co-emerge with consciousness arising, are the basis for the delusion of all beings. And so the prayer is really aspiring to our being able to clear away the clinging thoughts of duality, to recognize intrinsic awareness, which we can call clear awareness also. And then tracing then the further development of the 5 poisons and their action within our mind streams and therefore in our lives. Dualistic thoughts create doubt. Is it this way? Is it like that? I think I understand, maybe I don't understand. Maybe it's this, maybe it's something else. So it's the ignorance of the true nature that gives rise to the doubts that plague sentient beings. So instead of being confident in recognizing the nature of reality, we're poking around in it to see what we can rely upon, what is true, what's reliable. And in this dualistic turn of mind that is doubtful, is it this, is it that, dualistic tendencies become stronger and thicker. And then we move to a description of the states of mind that come from this. So the first one that's being talked about is longing and desire, attachment. Food, wealth, clothes, home and friends, the 5 objects of the senses, and your beloved family. We experience longing and desire. They are worldly delusions, but their grasping and clinging are endless. I really want each of us to remember this line, if you remember nothing else. The activities of grasping and clinging are endless. This line is a cut through. It's like a scimitar cutting right through your activity of mind that starts to be engaged in grasping and clinging and craving. Suddenly the words will rise in your mind. The activities of grasping and clinging are endless. So no, this potato chip is not going to ultimately satisfy. No, that lover is not going to be sufficient for my desire. I will always have more desires for other lovers or other kinds of lover experiences or other kinds of admirers in my life. The activities of grasping and clinging are endless. And as we have this wonderful verse in the 37 practices that says craving is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. Same, sawa, same meaning. Endless. Give it up. You know, if we could laugh like that in the middle of it, that phrase, the activities of grasping and clinging are endless, could help us in that moment of just, that really cuts through the thickness of desire, the thickness of craving and clinging, the stickiness of it, the adherent quality of it. It's like glue or mastic, you know, it's like, it's all over us. We get it all over ourselves. The activities of grasping and clinging are endless. So you might as well stop right here. However, if we recognize the one true desire, it will lead us to absolute knowing of oneness. The one true desire is to be one with the primordial nature. Let that desire be endless. The desire for complete liberation for ourselves and all beings. Recognition of the non-dual nature of being and the relaxation in that understanding. And then the striving that's needed in order to clear away what obscures it. And then the ultimate relaxation of being in union with that which is. The method that's elaborated here for each of the tormenting conditions, the afflictive emotions, is in the next verse, through Kuntuzangpo's prayer. May all you desirous and lustful beings who have attachments neither reject longing desires nor accept attachment to desires. So nothing to grasp at, nothing to push away. Simply observing mind's pure play. neither reject nor accept. Don't get caught and stay there, nor do you have to push it away in order to be free. Still yourself in clear awareness. Desire, rejection, mingle with clear awareness and vanish. Yes? Beginning to sound familiar? And then says, let your consciousness relax in its own natural state, then your awareness will be able to hold its own. And the specific wisdom of this particular affliction is perfect discernment. Now, each of the 5 or 6 confusion states has also its mirror, its wisdom state. So in this one, it's perfect discernment. And in anger, for example, the mirror-like wisdom is the practice. But the instruction, let your consciousness relax in its own natural state, then your awareness will be able to hold its own. This is in every single one. And it's practiced like this in each instance, in every instant. Let your consciousness relax in its own natural state, then your awareness will be able to hold its own. This is the same instruction as look always and only at clear awareness. Look always and only look at clear awareness. That is the natural state. And consciousness relaxes there and the affliction dissolves. So we could go through and enumerate all the different afflictions, but it's the same practice for each of them. Let your awareness relax, let your consciousness relax in its own natural state, then your awareness will be able to hold its own. And remember that is the same as Garchen Rinpoche's instruction, always and only look at clear awareness. Can you make a mental note to yourself that these are the same instruction and call on whichever one comes to you easily in the moment when you need it? Yes? And write it down. If a mental note is not sufficient, write it down, please. The same instruction with anger. When strong anger arises for you, neither reject nor accept it. Instead, relax in the natural state and achieve the wisdom of clarity. Please note that neither reject nor accept is a clear instruction not to give rise to the mind of dualistic perception and conception, but instead to relax in the state of union with your natural awareness. Same instruction for pride. Let your consciousness relax in the natural state, then your awareness will be able to hold its own. And same for jealousy and ignorance. And when we come to ignorance, which is the primary affliction that leads to being reborn in the animal realm, there is a wonderful additional instruction. May you beings who have fallen into the dark pit of ignorance shine the light of mindfulness and thereby achieve wisdom free from thought. And this just may be idiosyncratic, meaning just my own experience. But as we've practiced these 2 days and had an introduction to the inward attention and being able to bring one's awareness into the inner attention that actually can see the condition of mind and ultimately can recognize the nature of mind. It is my personal experience And I'm not saying this prescriptively. This isn't something that you need to generate if it doesn't speak to you, but it's my personal experience that at the moment that I turn within and cultivate that inward attention, it's as if I'm shining a light into the inward awareness domain, if you will, or ground. It can almost experience this gesture as bringing light into that inward attention. So this is a very brief explanation or description. I'm really just pointing out how this Munlam, how this mind path, how this prayer functions as a how-to manual for bringing the actions of ordinary daily life, the confusions, the afflictions, the conflicts, and the habituation of suffering that they entail for us, bringing them into practice mind, bringing them into the field of clear awareness that is the ground of mind, that is our true nature. So it's a very practical, hands-on, so to speak, on the mind. Very, very practical. I've used it this way for many years. You can see my copy has got lots of notations on it. Some of this is from teachings from His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche. At one point gave a very brief commentary on the text, and I took my notes in the margins. So this is my little field manual for my Bodhisattva life. That longing from early childhood that I spoke about for the contemplative life, that longing meets here with the fruit of contemplation arising as skillful action in the world of beings. I recommend this prayer, this Munlam, this mind path, as a field manual for all you bodhisattvas out there who sometimes forget the simple instruction: do nothing, be all. Be what and who you are. Just be still for a moment. Neither accept nor reject your confusion, your suffering, your sorrow, your anger, your lust. Neither accept nor reject. Instead, recognize clear awareness. Recognize awareness of the ground. Let your consciousness relax in its own natural state. In my limited experience of the Dharma, it's a rare teaching that I have encountered that, when speaking of awakening and ultimate realization, does not at some point use the word relax. Relaxation is a spiritual path all in itself, depending on the motivation for it. If it's just to kick your feet back and drink a beer, maybe not quite the path. Maybe the path. It depends on your motivation. But the relaxation of our grasping, give me it. The relaxation of our aversion, get it away from me. The relaxation of our not knowing and our panic. What is it? Help, help, panic, panic. All of these states, including the relaxation of pride and jealousy, the relaxation of pride, take pride in that which is empty from the beginning, or from the beginningless. How can we generate pride about that which has no inherent existence? Relax. Let your awareness relax in its own natural state. And then jealousy, which, so are aware, Rinpoche teaches about often as being perhaps the most destructive of the afflictive emotions, but the one that is often not talked about at all. But it's a hidden agenda that's corrupt, a hidden intention that's corrupt at its heart, that in observing the success or good fortune of another, one craves that for oneself and thinks one's entitled to it. And that's only one level of what jealousy is. The other level, which is less often understood because we less often look directly at it in examining our own minds. We're more aware of being uncomfortable when we're jealous because we think something's not being given us that we ought to have, or is being removed from us that we should have, and that the other one is undeserving. Hidden there, and this verse, the verse on jealousy here, addresses it. Hidden in that just discomfort, and we think it's craving, it's actually the emotional affliction of hatred and the desire for the destruction of the other. It's very difficult to look that in the eye. We all have experienced jealousy. It's a very familiar emotion to almost all of us. In fact, I don't know anyone, I would say, whom I haven't even seen that manifestation in. I mean, I've seen that in everybody I know, and I've seen it in myself. It took me many, many, many years, even many years as a practitioner of the Dharma, to turn around and look myself in the face and see the underlying corruption of jealousy, that what it wishes for is the destruction of another. So, of course, it is hugely destructive to us as bodhisattvas, to beings who are committed to, devoted to, dedicated to the liberation of all beings from suffering and to the benefit and well-being of all beings. We discover the snake within that actually wishes them to be dead or gone or destroyed in some way. It's something that we must face. If you have any moment of jealousy, please get a mirror and look in it. The mirror of mind is always there. It's the one that's most terrifying to look into. If you need to start by picking up an actual physical mirror, do it. Do whatever it takes to confront jealousy in your own mind stream, your own consciousness, and you will be rid of it quite quickly from confronting it, because it's only can live in the dark secrecy of your mind. As soon as there's light and air there, that particular, in my own personal experience, that particular affliction doesn't survive long in bright daylight. So shine. So with this then, having been at least looked at a moment, as we recited it, and thinking a little bit about the universal meaning contained within the specific instructions, I propose that we complete our retreat by practicing on clear awareness. We have about 20 minutes or so. We'll take a little extra time for our closing prayers. But let's do about 20 minutes of clear awareness practice, and just allowing ourselves, first of all, to relax. Any thought that we don't have enough time, or that we weren't here long enough together, or that we were here too long and we're tired, or whatever, just let it go. Let it just let all the thoughts relax, and sit with the 3 breaths, the cycle of the 3 breaths that we've done before here. Start there, and it doesn't have to be lengthy, but just do 3 times the cycle of the in-breath through the nose, the exhale with the sound of s. Start there. And then a sudden letting it go, and the body fills by itself. You don't need to take the in-breath. Now gathering oneself within the center of one's being, bring essence into essence. Can see it as the central channel or simply a channel of energy, the vertical axis of truth, the horizontal axis of love meeting in the heart. Expanding outward. Now coming back to the stillness position. With a single swift gesture of mind, bring the attention within. Now you are looking directly at your mind. You may be seeing conditioned mind with movement. You may be seeing mind still and luminous, natural state. Whatever you're seeing, clear awareness is the seer, and clear awareness is the true nature of what is being seen. Rest in clear awareness. Thank you. So it's time now to bring our retreat to a close with our closing prayers and dedications. A reminder that our retreat was dedicated this time, of course, to the well-being and joy and liberation of all sentient beings, and most particularly for the long life of Bodhisattva David Hartso in San Francisco. He's aware that we've dedicated our retreat to him, and he's very grateful for the prayer power and the love power that has been extended for his well-being and his health and his longevity. So thank you very much for that. So first, in relation to that, let's recite together the 4 lines of Shantideva. I've shared with David Hartso that the power of prayer for one's own or another individual's survival, longevity, health, etc., is greatly empowered and magnified by embedding that prayer that for the specific individual in the prayer for the health and well-being and long life of all beings. And he took that teaching immediately to heart and began to direct his mind in that way. So I sent him the Shantideva 4 lines, and he's reciting them. So let's think of David Hartso reciting these 4 lines with us. Do you all have the 4 lines? Everybody has them? Okay. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed. And the prayer for what we call the World Peace Prayer. I'm not remembering what page number it's on. I found it. Yeah, here we are. One change that I've made in the copy that I send out to my spiritual friends is in verse 3 that begins, due to the degeneration of times. The next to the last line, when it says men and cattle are seized by epidemic disease, let's change that to humans and cattle are seized by epidemic disease. Okay? So we recite this just one time, but recite it with all your heart. Not but recite it one time with all our hearts. The 3 jewels and 3 roots, trustworthy source of refuge, and in particular the Lord of Snow, Avalokiteshvara, Jetsuntara, and Guru Padma Sambhava, I supplicate you, please follow your previous pledges. Bestow blessings that this aspiration prayer may be fulfilled most perfectly. Due to the degeneration of times when thoughts and deeds of beings are perverted, and the inner and outer elements have lost their balance, men and cattle are seized by epidemic disease previously unheard of. Intruding Rahus, Nagas, powerful demons and dark forces, blight, frost and hail, bad harvest, warfare, and so forth, erratic rainfall, heat, misery, and droughts in the world, destruction by the elements such as earthquakes and the threat of fire, and in particular barbaric offenses causing harm to the teachings are rampant. May all types of harm and injury around the world be swiftly pacified and overcome. May precious and supreme bodhicitta spontaneously arise in the mind streams of all beings, human and non-human, and may they be free from destructive thoughts and deeds. May all be endowed with a loving mind for one another, and may well-being, glory, and prosperity prevail throughout the world. May the Buddha's teachings spread far and wide and ever last. by the truthful power of the three roots, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, by any root of virtue existing in samsara and nirvana, and by the power of our perfectly pure highest intention, may the fruition of our supplication and aspiration be attained. And then the dedication prayers in the yellow prayer book, starting on page 11. When it says by this merit, it means by the merit that we've generated through coming together for this retreat, for our prayers, for our practice, for our aspirations, and for our bodhisattva commitment to generate bodhicitta and ever lift it higher and higher for ourselves and all beings. Having defeated the ocean of samsara by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Whatever virtue sentient beings possess, whatever good they have done, will do, and are doing now, whatever goodness there may be, may it permeate all beings everywhere. By the virtue accumulated throughout the three times by others and myself, may all beings filling the reaches of space enter the gateway of the unexcelled path, and may they attain the Vajra holder's ground. Glorious Root Guru, this is the page 13, glorious Root Guru, precious one who sits upon a lotus at my heart, hold me with kindness and grant me all accomplishments of enlightened body, speech, and mind. Page 14. I pray for the excellent health of the Guru. I pray that he lives a supremely long life. I pray that his activities spread far and wide. Grant blessings that I may not be separate from my Guru. May the Buddha's teachings, the only source of benefit and happiness, endure long, and may the victory banner of longevity for those upholding the teachings be steadfast. May the sound of the great Dharma drum liberate all sentient beings from suffering. Please remain and teach the Dharma for infinite millions of kalpas, and by the power of this might of this powerful merit, may the aspirations of the benefactors and their circles be accomplished within this very life. May their obstacles be pacified, may everything be auspicious, and may their wishes be fulfilled according to the Dharma. Page 16. Just as the hero Manjushri realized things as they are, and as did Samantabhadra too, I will follow in their path and perfectly dedicate all these virtues. As all such dedications have been praised as supreme by the victorious ones of the three times, I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue to excellent conduct. By the blessing of the Buddhas who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging nature of reality, and by the blessing of the undivided Sangha community, may my prayers be fulfilled according to this dedication. By the virtues accumulated in the three times by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the intrinsic root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious awakening. Great Vajradhara, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lord Gampopa, Pamudrupa, and Lord Rikongpa, may the auspiciousness of all the Kagyu Lamas prevail. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage gurus, divine assembly of yidams, assemblies of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, heroes and heroines, Yogini and her assembly of Dakinis, all of you dwelling in the 10 directions, please heed me. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of attachment, hatred, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, respect, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. At the moment of death, may I not experience the suffering of being abruptly severed from this life. May I not suffer a terrible death. May I not die confused by wrong views. May I experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. The long life prayers. For this realm encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. Tenzin Gyatso, Lord Chenrezig, may you remain steadfast until the end of samsara. embodiment of the three jewels, great being who upholds and increases the teachings of the Shakya lion. Supreme are your activities of guiding others with your perfect deeds. May you, the precious Guru who accomplishes everything spontaneously, live long. Holder of the teachings of Lord Drikungpa, great Lord of the three jewels, through the power of your peerless compassion and the holy Dharma's peace and light, you bring relief to beings. May your life be long. The one known in the noble land as Aryadeva, emanated into the Gar clan of eastern Tibet as Chudingpa, the heart son of Jigten Gompo. May the life of glorious Garchen remain steadfast for 100 eons. Crown of the Shakyas, kind friend to strangers, the 17 great Panditas, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, Jigten Sumgan, and their lineage heirs, please bestow good fortune and auspiciousness. Protector Amitayus, transcendent Lord who grants supreme life, everlasting, stable, and unchanging, and who diverts from untimely death anyone who merely hears your name or thinks of you, please bestow good fortune and auspiciousness. Living austerely in the higher training of discipline, full of compassion that is the glory of those to be tamed, devoid of all grasping, never parting from Mahamudra's natural state, Nedun Tempenyima, son of the teachings, may your life remain firm. May the teachings of the great Drikungpa Ratna Shri, master of interdependence, omniscient Lord of Dharma who has seen all knowable things, be upheld until the end of cyclic existence through study, practice, hearing, contemplation, and meditation. Your 1,000 arms are the 1,000 wheel-turning kings. Your 1,000 eyes are the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate eon. Your love is boundless like space. I supplicate to the Bodhisattva Chenrezig. Om Mani Padme Hum Ri. By this virtue may I swiftly accomplish, Lord Chenrezig. Bodhicitta, the precious and supreme mind, arise in whom it has not yet arisen. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. And in English, we'll do the aspiration prayer to be born in the precious land of Dewachan. Emaho, in the center is the wondrous Buddha of boundless light. To his right is Chenrezig, the Lord of great compassion, and to his left is Vajrapani, the Bodhisattva of great might. They are surrounded by an inconceivable assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the pure land of great bliss. When I and all beings pass from this life, may we be born in that land, unhindered by another samsaric birth, and may we then be accomplished without hindrance. Tejata pansarya wa Buddha nayasoha. Thank you to all our friends near and far who have joined us for this very, very short retreat, boundless retreat, short and boundless, the two dimensions in union. It has been a joy to sit with you in this way, feeling your presence with us in the one mind that we are, in the one beautiful, great, glowing heart of Bodhisattva intention and dedication that we embody. I hope and pray that each of you has taken from the teachings and the practice this weekend what will nourish you on the path, what will give you great confidence and certainty in the teachings and the practice and in yourself, not your transient, adventitious, arising now, disappearing then self, but your beingness incarnated here in this lifetime, choosing the path of benefit to all beings, the Bodhisattva path. I rejoice in you, and I love you, and I am grateful beyond words for your presence and your commitment, your dedication, and for the great love that you extend to all beings. Some of you I know personally, some of you I only know through this connection in the retreat. And I love you all, and I wish you well. Please stay in touch, and please come back again soon, as we will, as soon as possible. Thank you.
I just want to express my deepest...
Sorry?
I want to express my deepest gratitude from the Garchen Buddhist Institute and the Worldwide Sangha for you bringing these very profound teachings here in a very personal and experiential way, along with these clear awareness teachings, and making them more accessible to those of us that are working our way on this path. Thank you.
Thank you, Padma. You know that it is my joy and delight to be able to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, with that, may I just say what I like to say at the end of every retreat? Retreat complete. Thank you.